All right, welcome back. Last time, we dug into that critical first 8 weeks of GLP-1 therapy and pinpointed it as a major source of instability. So today, we're building right on top of that. We're going to outline a structured, operational framework to actually manage that risk and ultimately make these programs much more resilient. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the economic reality of it all, then we'll diagnose that core problem, the instability window. After that, we'll focus on the stuff we can actually control, lay out the operational solution, and then finally look at the real-world impact. Okay, first things first. To really get why this framework is so critical, we have to ground ourselves in the basic economics of how modern GLP-1 care is delivered. And this right here is the fundamental principle. In the old fee-for-service world, value is all about single visits. But in a subscription model, revenue is tied directly to time. Every single month a patient continues their therapy, it directly impacts the bottom line. So persistence isn't just some nice clinical outcome. It's a core structural variable of the entire business model. And this slide, this really brings that principle to life with some hard numbers. Just look at this. If you can shift the average persistence from 6 months to 8 months, you don't just add 2 months of revenue. No, you boost the entire lifetime value of that patient by a full third. It just goes to show how incredibly sensitive this model is to patient duration. Okay, so the economic stakes are clear. Now let's zero in on the central operational challenge. We need to figure out where exactly all this risk is concentrated. And this timeline, well, it tells the whole story, biologically speaking. The first couple of months are this intense period of physiologic adaptation. The GI side effects, the nausea, it doesn't just happen randomly. It all clusters right at the beginning when patients are starting out and escalating their dose. And this isn't a flaw in the drug. It's a predictable part of the journey. So what happens when you have this predictable physiologic stress? Well, it has a direct, measurable impact. Just look at the data. Real-world claims show that more than a quarter of patients, 26%, drop out within the first 90 days. That's not a rounding error. That's a huge leak in the bucket, happening right before people even get the full benefits of the program. And here's the crucial point. This risk is not a slow, steady leak. A simple model might just spread that 26% drop-off evenly. But the reality, the model that actually aligns with the biology, shows that the hazard is totally front-loaded. A huge chunk of that risk is packed into the very first month, right when those GI side effects are at their worst. And that right there has massive implications for where we should be focusing all of our energy. So this all leads us to a clear definition. We can officially call this period the instability window. It's this perfect storm where biology, patient uncertainty, and business risk all collide. It is the primary, identifiable source of preventable churn for any GLP-1 program out there. Now, understanding this window is really powerful because it lets us get strategic. We can stop treating all patient drop-off as the same thing. We can actually analyze the specific reasons people leave and, most importantly, isolate the ones we can do something about. And this slide, for me, just lays out the battlefield perfectly. Look at that column on the left. The things driving that early churn, confusion about dose titration, misinterpreting normal side effects, having the wrong expectations, these are almost all things that are modifiable at the clinic level. They're operational problems. Now look at the right. Insurance, cost, supply shortages, that's systemic stuff that's largely out of our hands. All of our leverage, all of our power is on the left. And it just makes sense, right? The operational load follows the exact same pattern. The need for a patient to get reassurance, to ask a simple question like, hey, is this nausea normal? That demand isn't spread out evenly. It's heavily, heavily concentrated in these first 8 weeks. And that creates a huge surge that can really strain a clinic's resources if you're not ready for it. Okay, so we have this concentrated, front-loaded, and operationally driven risk. The big question is, how do we build a system to manage it without burning everyone out? The solution is to build what we call a behavioral infrastructure layer. Now, that might sound a little academic, but the idea is actually pretty simple. This isn't about changing what doctors do. It's a parallel system running alongside the clinical care that's designed purely to manage the patient experience, to educate them, frame their expectations, and provide structured support exactly when they need it the most. So this framework is built on 5 really actionable pillars. It starts before the patient even takes their first dose by setting the right expectations.
Then it guides them with reminders. It normalizes what they're feeling by explaining it's part of the process. It uses proactive check-ins to cut off uncertainty before it starts. And, this is critical, it has a crystal clear process for when a real issue needs to get escalated to the clinical team.
And let's be absolutely crystal clear about the boundaries here. This operational framework is meant to support clinical care, not replace it. It's all about education and behavioral support. It does not prescribe medicine, it does not modify a dose, it does not diagnose anything. This keeps it perfectly aligned with all clinical and regulatory guidelines. All right, so we've diagnosed the problem, and we've got a framework to fix it. But what's the actual payoff? What's the impact of putting a stabilization framework like this into practice?
Well, let's talk numbers, because the economic impact is just profound. By focusing all that energy on the high leverage instability window and preventing even a small fraction of those early drop-offs, the effect on lifetime value is huge. Shifting that median persistence by just one single month can deliver a nearly 17% lift in LTV for every patient. But here's the best part, and this is the crucial takeaway. This isn't just about the money. The exact same actions that stabilize your revenue are the ones that improve patient outcomes. A patient who successfully gets through that early phase is far, far more likely to get to their maintenance dose and achieve those incredible long-term health benefits. The incentives are perfectly, beautifully aligned.
This quote really just wraps it all up, doesn't it? Focusing your systems and your resources on getting patients through those first 8 weeks, well, it isn't just one tactic among many. You could argue it's the single highest leverage thing you can do to ensure both the clinical success and the economic resilience of your entire program.
So we're going to leave you with this question to think about. If we reframe this early drop-off, not as some unavoidable clinical failure, but as a predictable, manageable, operational risk, how does that change the way you've designed your program to handle it?